Welcome to the Rotary Club of Bearden. I'd like to welcome all visiting Rotarians and guests, and I'm going to ask that you silence the phone. You need it to be louder, Steve?
Yeah, please.
Well, I knew your hearing was going.
I'm shutting off my hearing aid.
Janice, you want to lead us in the song?
Yes. You look like you were hesitant there. Was I really going to leave them or not? Okay, I've been doing percussion all week with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So I am looking for some real singing because all we've been doing is banging on things and playing trap sets and güiros and maracas. So my head is going nuts. So here we go. And the pitch is going to be, live, my country 'tis of thee, my country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's bride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you.
All right, for the pledge, Jim Christensen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then for the invocation, Sam's got me doing it. He'd also already removed me from office and put Kelly in. It was an attempt to get me. Yeah. So Sam was an optimist. So anyway, if you bow your head, dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless this food and that we thank you for all that you give us. We ask that you give us guidance and wisdom to carry out your will through Rotary to help out others and to do good and make a difference. Amen. Steve Kaufman, guest and visitors.
Mike and Danny, would you stand up, please? And Mike, you brought a guest again, so would you introduce him? Tell us a little bit about him.
And again, this is Danny Ward. He's my business partner, good friend, and I'll let Danny tell us a little bit about himself.
Oh, well, thank you. Good to be back. I'm a environmental consultant, geologist, and yeah, Mike and I are just kicking off a business here.
And you're not from Sweden, are you?
No.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, guys.
Bruce, did you deliver mobile meals today? Was everybody in good health?
Yes.
And everybody liked the meals? Are we still salading?
It's all cold, yes.
Yes.
Miss
okay.
Rosalie's back and
Oh,
Miss Mabel told her life story, so.
oh, good. We have some really fun people that we deliver to, so if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. And they would love to meet you. Every time I take someone that's new, they are just so grateful, and they tell us every Friday to thank you all from the bottom of their hearts for the meals that you deliver to them.
John Hines, I think you got it.
I just kind of wanted to let everybody know that a member of our club is having a special birthday tomorrow. Sam Bailoff will turn 100 years old. And just what a wonderful person. So, you know, I guess a year or so ago, we had Sam be the program, and we did a question and answer session with him. And that was really one of the more memorable programs we've ever had. He was just a quality person. And when I think about Sam, I remember the first time I met him was when he owned Bailoff's in West Town Mall. My brother was working there in college, and so I went in, and I was just a kid, probably 11, 12 years old, and they introduced me to Sam, and I was a little intimidated because he was so well dressed. He was the best dressed man in town for years, but he was such a gentleman then. And I remember that. But the next time that I met Sam was back in, like, I think it was 99 or 2000. Bob Ely had reservations on LeConte Mountain, first Thursday after July 4th. And our Rotary Club had about 15 people would go every year. And Sam Bailoff went by himself and roomed with me, I guess, in one of the cabins up there. And I'm just going, what a fantastic person. What an absolute fantastic person. And I think about Sam, and I think if you're going to live your life, you ought to live it like Sam Bailoff lived his life. He's always interested in you. You know, he's always interested in you. And so that's a lot different than myself. I'm always interested in me.
Does he have a cell phone? Does he use a cell phone?
He does have a cell phone.
Would
Yeah.
it be okay if people called him?
Yeah, absolutely. He'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. I'll try to bring him here. But anyway, Sam Bailoff.
Thanks, John. Patty, I thought you might mention Pack the Park. You want me to mention
That's no longer my job.
it? Well, it is through June 30th. So,
Is it the 14th?
I'll go ahead.
It's August 15th,
Yeah,
and it's $15 a ticket.
14.
Well, I had those 14 tickets and stuff. Huh?
It's $14 a ticket, $6.50 goes to Polio Plus. As I understand it, Bill Gates will double it, so that effectively makes it times 3. So $19.50 would go toward Polio Plus. And you get a $6 stadium credit if you go to the game, toward the food. And they've got tickets, sign up front. So, and then the other announcement, district governor installation is this Sunday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at the Cookville Higher Education Campus, as I understand. Is that correct? I think so. Janice is looking funny.
No. Yeah, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Yeah. I adjusted for our time. And then, I don't know if you saw the newsletter, we have 2 proposed members, Martin Daniels and J.D. Clayton. So if you, I guess they'll hopefully get installed in July. I got to give them a week to anybody to comment. And then I guess the only other thing I've got to tell, I'm running out of jokes, so I heard a couple that are kind of not that good, but decided I'd say them anyway. So one is, what kind of animal is in all baseball games?
A bat.
That's correct, a bat. Was that Sam? At least it's Sam to get it right. And then the other one is, why was the broom late for school? Broom. He overswept. And then the other thing, I think.
That's enough. Ring the bell.
It was so corny, I thought it was funny. And then, I don't know if you heard it, but the mayor was supposed to speak today, and he, I guess, got wind of the fact that I was planning to have a grudge match with him, and you noticed he opted out. He didn't want any part of me. David, anybody other got announcements? David, do you want to announce our speaker?
Our good mayor is coming in August 8th, so we still have them. Cancel. I want to hear him. Well, but we get such great speakers in lieu of it. It's great. Speaking of which, on a short-term notice, Chris Thomas has agreed to come back and speak. He's the Chief Administrative Officer and Director at the Knox County Regional Forensic Center. He joined the center in August of 2019. The primary purpose of the center is to provide autopsy and anthropology services to 23 counties, as well as serve as Knox County and Anderson County medical examiners. The Forensic Center also provides training opportunities for pathology residents, law enforcement agencies, as well as assist in the training at the National Forensics Academy. Prior to this, he spent 21 years in the financial industry performing many different roles, including lending, senior management, and training facilitator. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army National Guard, where he spent 10 years, including an 18-month tour in Iraq. Makes his home in Lenore City with his wife Jennifer and 2 teenage children, Carrie and Richard. He's also a recent graduate of the University of Tennessee Certified Public Manager course. So please join me in welcoming Chris back again.
Good afternoon. So, I was so excited. I got a call earlier this week and said, hey, the Beard and Rotary Club, would you be available to speak for them? I'm like, I talked to them last July, but they're wanting me back. I said, nobody's ever asked for me to come back. And then I'm thinking, like, well, this feels great. And then David said, thanks for filling in for the mayor. Yeah, so I'm here today to talk about this fiscal conservatism, except I don't know what that means, so I'm not going to. How many of you were here last summer when I did the program? And you're still in the club. Awesome. That's great. We love returning. So yeah, I'm Chris. I'm the Chief Administrator. It's good to see you. I recognize a lot of your faces, including my own personal financial advisor, Mr. JP is here. Known him for 20 years. I've actually met him as soon as I came back from the war. Because as soon as I came back to work, he had to show me how to use a computer. And I remember my second day on the job, I somehow set a computer on fire. And yeah, and there was like, JP, there's smoke coming out of here. They didn't do that before the war, so I don't know what happened. But anyways, it's good to be back. So I've got a program. For those of you that were here last time, some of y'all wouldn't leave. That's cool. We can do it again today. I got no place to be. So I got a 2-hour program that I'm going to try to do in about 15 minutes because I'm also a former Rotarian. I've been president of a Rotary Club before. I know how fast y'all want out of here, so it's cool. For those who want to stay around, I'm here as long as you want to. So I have a split program. So I'm actually doing a breakfast series for the Chamber of Commerce in Farragut next month, and I've got sort of a preview to that, so you'll kind of see on that one a little bit. And I definitely want to leave time for questions because y'all got a lot of questions. So it's probably not even gonna, I don't even know if it's gonna work on the angle. Just wiggle that, or we may have to point it a little bit. Did I get the right one? Yeah. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. That's the one I brought with me, sorry.
I don't mess with your.
Never mind. There we go. I brought one with, I didn't bring a laptop, but I brought a clicker. Go figure.
You should have let him pretend that he figured it out in a second.
Awesome. Next time. Invite me back next summer. We're doing this again. So that's our center there. So who are we? We're, of course, the medical examiner's office for Knox and Anderson County, and we serve 23 counties. So all that blue area, we do all the autopsies for that area. So in the Knox and Anderson County, we go to all the scenes. So if somebody passes away and it's a natural, unexpected, sudden, the ME's office gets involved. In the other 21 counties, each county in Tennessee has a medical examiner office. So there's a medical examiner. Now, in a lot of these small rural counties, it's your local family physician that just, yes sir, I volunteer, and they help investigate the deaths. But most of them are private practice. Probably your family doctor if you're in one of these small counties, but they don't do autopsies. So sometimes autopsies need to be done, so they send them to us. There's 5 forensic centers in the state of Tennessee. There's Knoxville, Johnson City, Memphis, Chattanooga, and Nashville. So if you're one of those 5 districts, so we've got a quarter of the state right here in Knox County. What we do, so hospitals, they'll call and report deaths to us. Cremation permits. We actually have to sign every cremation permit in Knox and Anderson County. So even if you don't have to come to us and you have a natural death, if you are going to be cremated, one of the doctors that works with me has to approve it. We're the last line of defense against any evidentiary information being destroyed. So I always use the example, we had a case several years ago where a doctor had wrote on a death certificate they died of pneumonia. Well, they did die of pneumonia from the gunshot hole in their neck. That's kind of an important thing to know. So before they cremated, we kind of stopped that happening because that actually was a homicide that turned into a judicial situation. So we caught that and we, had to do that. He got cremated later on after we did the autopsy. Release from we go to the homes. You may see our vehicles around your neighborhoods, and if somebody's not on hospice, we just have to come and investigate. And as long as grandma, grandpa pass away naturally, they have funeral home arrangements, they can go to the funeral home. We just have to do a quick investigation. We do some private hospital cases. In total, last year I did 2,600 autopsies and exams in our facility. So that's a lot. Now, it's down. We actually have had a couple years of, give you an example. In 2019, we did 1,971. 2020, we did 2,300, then 2,800. So, and now we're down to 26. So It's a little reprieve, not where we were 3 years ago still, but it got a little bit better. I partner with a lot of agencies. I spend a lot of my time in the drug world. I partner with the DEA and the FBI, and I look at prescribers too. So we track prescription medication. So if we're having too many people die of drug-related deaths and they have, Schedule I narcotics prescribed to them from certain prescribers, we track that and work with the DEA, and they see if there's a case to go after somebody who's just prescribing too many medications. And I've seen several names come through on the news media that I helped provide information for the DEA, unless that's one of your friends, and I did not. Work with the CDC and tracking. Now, one thing I love about being a regional center, so I had these 3 toxicologies that came in a couple months ago, and the toxicology company sent them to my attention. And these 3 people had like identical toxicologies, and it was really strange things that don't normally show up in our center. And one was the Knoxville Police Department scene, one was the Knox County Sheriff's Office, and one was the Rome County Sheriff's Office. So I was able to actually put all 3 of those detectives together, those investigators, and said, hey, look, 3 of y'all need to talk because this is the same thing. So get the cell phones. There's a connection here. This is not a unique situation. So they are actually proactively working, and this has been recent. So they think they've got the deal. So they'll be able to charge that individual with the deaths of all 3 of those because it's so unique, because we're able to get that into the region. So a lot of these prosecutions you see on these drug dealers for drug-related deaths are because of the information that comes out of our center. And realize when I'm talking about people who work for me, I just take credit for everything they do. They do all the work. So I want to make sure, now I do talk to DEA, but once again, we have a really great team, and I love my team. Education, we love training, and that's something I've tried to install since I've been there, is we're trying to get back to a training facility to where we're teaching others and we're increasing the knowledge in the forensic center and just forensic sciences in general. So we do educational tours. I go to high schools and talk to them. I have a program for those. We actually train law enforcement new recruits. We train the National Forensic Academy. It's a 10-week course, and they spend a couple days at our facility. We train clinicals on education for those in nursing programs at our own state, and LMU will come through and do rotations at our facility and find out real quickly if they want to be involved in this world or not. Because one thing for sure, I've helped a lot of nurses decide that they don't need to be around dead people. Because they get back there and they're like, do you have to see this all the time? I'm like, yeah, you will too in the ER. Nope, I'm out, done. I said, well, that happens. I have the benefit. Now, we have the benefit of our office. There's nothing I can do by the time they've gotten to us. By the time we're notified, we can't solve it. Now, I can't imagine the pressure nurses and firemen and law enforcement, because they're at the scene, and they get disturbed because they can't prevent, they're trying to prevent deaths from happening in some cases, but sometimes they try their best and they can't. So we do have a little bit more levity on it, because by the time they come to me, there's nothing else that we could have done. But what we can do is we can take that information and we can try to make it into public awareness to try to prevent future deaths. Something that's been a personal kind of drive, especially after last year, we have a lot of baby deaths in this area. So we do about 60 baby autopsies a year, and 90% of those are from unsafe sleeping situations. They're children that are, I'm sorry, they get smothered. They're choked in their swings, or they're kept in a bed with their parents. Somebody moves, they roll over, they can't roll themselves, they get face down a pillow. ABCs of infants, alone on the back and in the crib. And the hard thing about that is the public perception and just the admittance to it, because nobody will admit it. They use terms that don't really apply anymore, like SIDS and SUDI, which you hear all the time on my child died naturally. And there are some that do. There are some children who have a genetic defect and they pass away. But 9 times out of 10, I see these stories and I'm like, that's not what happened. The child was smothered. Now, it was an accidental death. They didn't do it intentionally. But if we're not telling the story and we're not saying why these children died, then we can't fix it, right? Because if you don't know and people keep repeating the same thing over and over again. So we actually get involved in the products a lot too. So I work with the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and we do recall. Our information goes to the Consumer Protection, who does recall. So when you're in Walmart, the store, and you see the recalls on baby products, those are usually because medical examiners have identified those products as involved in the death, and we've turned those in. And once that happens so many times, it goes out. Um,
GSM.
What's it?
GSM.
Oh, Graduate School of Medicine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the University of Tennessee Graduate School of Medicine.
Okay.
They have pathology residents. They don't have forensic pathology residents, just general pathology, which we're actually trying to develop a forensic pathology program with the university because the doctors. So I have 5 forensic pathologists. I'll show you here in a minute. I need 7. I have a position for 6. I'm losing 1. So that's 3 plus 1 plus 4. Anyways, I don't have enough. There's the shortage doctor. There's 1,000 positions in the country for forensic pathologists. There's less than 500 qualified to do the job. Only 50 new ones are graduating this year, and 80 are retiring. So,
Where are the college programs?
Duke. There's one in Memphis. There's plenty of programs in the state. But what happens is those universities are attached to forensic centers, so they go through the resident program. Oh, we have a position open. I'm just going to hire you right here. So Memphis doesn't usually have a shortage. But if I get one at University of Tennessee, they train in my office, I can keep them. I have a better chance of keeping them. And they're competing hard, and it's high pay. But even still with the high pay, it's that just died, didn't it? Okay. Even with the extremely high pay, it's not enough to compete to try to get them, and there's just not enough people going into it. And a doctor's only supposed to do about 250 autopsies a year. Ours do around 350 to 380 apiece. So,
380 apiece.
yeah, last year, 2 years ago, we were up to 385 apiece, and I thought I was going to lose my doctors.
What is that, like 3 or 4 a day?
We do anywhere from 5 to 12 cases per day, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. 364. We try to take Christmas off. We don't always get it off. If there's homicides or babies, we're still doing autopsies on Christmas Day. But those are exams too, because you count like 4 exams equal like 1 autopsy. There's a mathematical formula. So we see a lot more people than what the numbers come up to. But yeah, and getting them from all the counties. And then, anybody know that there's a drug problem here? Yeah. That has just really almost all of our business. Matter of fact, I just finished my drug numbers for last year. So we are up again. So for Knox County, and I haven't even put out the report yet, but I'm starting to work on it now. So 544 drug-related deaths in Knox County versus 533 the previous year. It was 470 the year before that. It was 293 the year before that.
What's the majority of?
74% is fentanyl. And because people weren't dying fast enough with fentanyl, now they have this thing called xylazine that they mix inside the fentanyl. Anybody know what xylazine is? It's a horse tranquilizer. And they cut it inside their fentanyl. Now, I'm a numbers guy. 2018, 1 case in all of Knox County that had xylazine included. That was 5 years ago, right? 1. In 2019, I had 5. In 2020, I had 20. In 2021, 44. In 2022, 77. As of May 31st of this year, I'm up to 55. So I'm going to have triple digits this year in xylazine, which is stuff that's mixed into the fentanyl. So, and Narcan does not work on fentanyl, or xylazine, by the way. So it is not an opioid, so it is Narcan resistant. So you can't Narcan them. Well, you can, but it doesn't work. But they still were going to say Narcan them because you don't know what's all in their system. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of coming back from that.
I've had a thought about this. Why do the drug dealers want to kill their customers?
So, first of all, you have to get into the mentality of that. Now, that's a larger thing that I'm qualified to answer, but I still do. So, take the time frame 80s, 90s. So, you and I are doing drugs, and I fall over and die. Your mind, you would look at me and say, "Whoa, that's some bad stuff. I don't want anything of that." That's not the mentality today. If you and I are doing drugs and I die, your mentality today is, "He's got some good soup. I'm taking it." And all the stuff is taken from the scene. Besides these dealers, they have an endless supply of customers. We're not running out. I do 1 to 2 autopsies a day for Knox County on that. So almost 2 people a day. And plus I do 21 counties, so I get almost 1,000 drug-related deaths every year. They don't slow down. That's the only 2 areas that have increased in the cause of manner of deaths are drug-related deaths and suicides. Everything else has went down. Those are going on up.
Which county is the proportion of the population is where the drug usage is the highest?
So I don't see everything in my surrounding counties. So the only thing I can really attest for is Knox and Anderson County. But nobody comes close to the numbers of Knox County anyways, so.
What are the financial demographics?
Everyone.
Like blue collar those?
Blue collar, white collar. I've had doctors, I've got nurses from almost every hospital around here. I've had a nurse that died that worked for them. UT, Tenova, Turkey Creek, Blumore, almost every hospital has had a nurse that have died of a drug-related death in my facility. I had a guy who just inherited $5 million in Farragut who died in his truck 2 days after inheriting it because he took some of his inheritance money and bought a bunch of drugs. I've got wealth, I've got governments, agencies, employees, I've got their children. I have them from Farragut, from the nicest home you can get to Sequoia Hills to behind the gas station on Clinton Highway. Everything. There is no demographic on financials when it comes into drugs.
But the fentanyl deaths, people have to be seeking drugs because they're not legal.
Correct.
So the illicit drug taking, people are actually taking a chance by seeking it, knowing it's not a legal drug.
Yeah, no, there's something called 4-ANPP that's in all the toxicologies, which tells us it's synthetic. We know that it's produced in China, shipped to Mexico, it goes up to Detroit, it gets cut there and shipped down 75 right into East Tennessee.
But when people take that, how long do they have before it kills?
It's different for everybody. You have tolerance, height, weight, heart condition, everything from inside your metabolic state of how you're going to be able to obtain it. We've seen levels that are just completely off the charts to just a few doses, just a few ounces of milligrams.
If it's just a few doses and they don't get that pinch, do they live long, or is it an instant, or is it just irreversible?
Fentanyl is, unfortunately, it's kind of like you're slowly just falling asleep and your heartbeat just until it just doesn't go.
So very few actually get to the emergency room to be treated.
There are actually quite a few that get to the emergency room because I talk to the EDs and they Narcan them because we do what's called a drug fatality review team. So we go over cases. Some of these people, we've seen cases where some of these people have 30 ED visits within a 6-month period prior to their death. And now what you also have is the tolerance comes into play a lot too. A lot of these individuals are in hospital or they're in hospitals, rehabilitation programs, they're going through these programs, so they're out. Now they're back and they backslide. And the problem is their tolerance isn't built up, so they take the same amount they took before and it's fatal. So, and you have those that don't know. I mean, there's a large part of the population of these people who think they're taking heroin. And fentanyl is a cheap substitution for heroin. And I'm not saying heroin's a safe drug, but we don't see a ton of deaths from heroin. And people think that they're taking heroin, they cut it with fentanyl, and they're dead. Now people are actually specifically asking for fentanyl. It boggles my mind.
He might not be able to answer this, but
I'll come up with one anyway.
come up with a crazy question. Everything that's come with fentanyl is not killing people. So how much fentanyl do you think is actually flowing into Knox County? If you have,
I know some of the busts they have, and it's like the tens of millions of dollars worth of fentanyl that's in some of these vehicles. I heard one of the large busts, and apparently, this is third-hand information, but I heard whoever the postmaster general is for Knox County, they have a device there, and they said you would not believe how much is caught through the U.S. postal system here in Knox County. So I know that they catch a bunch of it from the post office before it ever gets out. They can't, obviously, for whatever reason, I don't know how the postal system works on tracking, but they, whether it's P.O. Box or whatever, they can't track it back to where it's coming from, but they say a ton of the drugs is actually coming through the mail here in Knox County.
Do they, post office have a dog? Because I would think that might be able to catch some of those drugs.
And they may have. Once again, I will say that's something I'm not aware of. But I know they catch a bunch of it. But, I mean, almost every vehicle accident they catch, and every car chase, they found fentanyl on them.
I know with people that suffer from alcoholism, they make drugs that actually make you sick.
Suboxone.
Yeah, when you drink the alcohol. Okay, where I'm going with this is there anything equivalent that you could give a person who's a drug addict?
He's asking like if there's alternatives for the drugs. I just finally remembered to repeat the question. And there are things that you have Suboxone out there, you have ibuprofen. Those are some things that people take, and they're abused. Imagine like you coming off narcotics and saying, okay, fine, you can take some no-dose, and then you find out they took like 20. People overdose on diphenhydramine what's the one that gets, laxatives. I've seen them overdose on laxatives. Yeah, we'll feed boxes, like 30 boxes. We have a picture in our office of like someone had 30 empty boxes of laxatives.
I used to work in retail, and that was one of the biggest things that got stolen.
Yeah.
And we never could figure out why.
Yeah, laxatives.
We were like,
If you take enough of them, it's like taking the Oxy or Percocet. Yeah.
Does fentanyl have a medical use?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Fentanyl patches. There was, matter of fact, I didn't realize this till one of the first suicides, and it was a cancer patient, and he had fentanyl patches. So there is a medical use for fentanyl. Matter of fact, a friend of mine was in the hospital recently, was given fentanyl because of the amount of pain. It is a pain reliever. It's a sedative. So I mean, it has medical properties, but it is just the fact that it is so easily converted to a synthetic drug and can be chemically manufactured.
As a medical use, kind of following up, how is that managed?
Obviously not well.
There are cases where it is.
Yes.
From a medical prescription.
So the thing is, I rarely see it on a medical form. I mean, everything we see is synthetically created in a laboratory. So obviously, somewhere it's easy to reproduce. So if you're asking me like, how is it regulated from a national level? I have no idea, but I can tell you it's apparently it's something that somebody got the secret to Coke very easily and just repeated it.
Is the reason that people or drug dealers are cutting heroin with fentanyl, is it because it's cheaper?
Yeah. Oh yeah, super cheap. Yeah, it's super cheap and it's super easy to recreate.
You mentioned Detroit. I've heard stories in the past that a lot of drugs come out of Detroit. Why is that, and why can't the states do something with Detroit and say, hey, look?
He's asking about Detroit and why we can't do something. So I don't know if you pay attention to like local news. So there's actually something called the 313 initiative from the Knoxville County District Attorney's Office. If you got it in Michigan plate, you're going to get pulled over in Knoxville. It's going to happen.
But why does it continue? I mean, why did Michigan try to crack down?
So I got in trouble last week because we were having one of these overdose fatality reviews, and we're like, okay, let's talk about how we can do with what we do with the details. I said, okay, we're going to build a wall around Michigan, and I was with a bunch of healthcare professionals, and they did not think that was an appropriate method. So fine, they just want to keep giving them Narcan. We got to stop the problem. Yes, sir.
Law enforcement call Knoxville a part of the corridor of crime because of the interstate systems that come through here, going all different directions. And a lot of it takes place at West Town Mall in the parking lot. So close to Louisiana.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, like I said, they say you can witness it if you go down by Carm and you watch it. You can just watch them out there. Like I say, drugs is a large portion of what we do in trying to stop it. And our job, of course, is we're not law enforcement. You know, I can give you the data and I can show you how people are dying. I can give you the toxicologies and show you where they're coming from. And we turn all that information over, and every time we find a positive case, I'm trying to like connect them to other cases. And the problem is that just everybody's got fentanyl now. It's we could talk forever on just on fentanyl.
When you were a little boy,
yeah,
if you were ever small, did you know you were going to be a medical examiner?
No, gosh, no. I was just glad to have a job. And to clarify, I'm not a medical examiner. I'm an administrator, so and a director. So
after listening to you, you kind of draw a negative picture, and I don't know if you've seen this. It's been probably back about 15, 20 years ago.
I'm a ray of sunshine.
It's about 15, 20 years ago. They had a major informant from the drug DEA that was a cartel member come before Congress. And one of the first questions the congressman asked him was, how do you think the war on drugs is going? And the guy was behind the screen and he laughed. He said, that war's been over for about 10, 20 years. He said, you all lost.
We lost.
He said, they have warehouses full of money.
Oh, yeah.
He said they buy the governments. If they can't buy them, they kill them and replace them with one they can buy.
I can track, and this is due to my background in the financial industry, I can track when we staff up for our investigators on the overdoses, and I do it on the third Wednesday of the month and around the third of the month. Anybody know why? Social Security and disability direct deposit payments. Within 3 days of those, when we get our spikes. Track the money. The largest week I ever had in drug-related deaths was March 16, 2021. That was the week of the federal stimulus payments, direct deposit. That hurt. That was busy. I ended up with like 25 overdoses in Knox County that week alone. That was a hard week. So doctors, our job is to determine cause and manner of death, like drugs, accident, suicide, natural. That's my nice autopsy suite. I redid the floor. Isn't that pretty? It's not drab and gray anymore and looks like a morgue. It actually looks like some place the person would actually want to work. So we got a nice new floor with the colors. I got a lot of technicians. Those are cool. Those people look like a scene from a horror movie. If you get there before 10 a.m., they are usually covered in blood. And we wear protective equipment. We're good. But these, I've got, and they're mostly ladies. The guys, they can't handle it. I'm telling you, we tried to put some guys back there in autopsy. They usually quit within a few months. These ladies, I mean, they're about 5 foot nothing. I've watched them roll a 700-pound guy like it was butter. They've got some strength. They know how to make. I don't want to make any of these ladies mad. And I apologize for the wording, but when we have detectives come in, we have the big bad detectives. You know, they'll come in. I'm going to observe autopsy, and when they grab those testicles and pull them out, and you can watch them go. That is part of an autopsy. I'm sorry to say, do not die of drugs. We will pull your testicles out. It will happen. That should be an advertisement alone for not doing drugs. You just don't want to watch that happen. All of their boyfriends are in line. Yep, everything we say from tongue to testicles, it comes out. So,
Do you find drugs in there or something?
No, we just like doing it. So a large part of the autopsy process is not just toxicology. So the reason you do it, everybody's like, why do you have to do an autopsy on a drug-related death? And it's because of any attorney in here? Because of you. Because defense attorneys will be like, how do you know they didn't have an enlarged heart? How do you know they didn't have a kidney problem? How do you know that there wasn't some natural metabolic problem that didn't cause their genetic disease? So we're going to go through every single organ. We're going to take little slices out. We're going to put them in paraffin blocks. We're going to send them off and have them cut up to little dices. We're going to look at the slides of pathology and determine, no, there was nothing wrong with any organ. And that's why autopsies are done, because of buggers. Other than that, we can just draw toxin and, okay, they had drugs in their system, they didn't, boom. No, it's because there's people that want to fight it in the judicial system. Tax dollars at work. I'm paid by your tax dollars, by the way. Investigators. So I got a group of people who actually go to the scene. Now, these are some God-loving people because they go to scene after scene. So think about, you see on the news and you'll see like this tragic death in Campbell County or Knox County or whatever it is. So one particular law enforcement agency deals with that, they decompress and they go back to work and hopefully they don't deal with the death again, right, for a while. My people go from scene to scene to scene to scene in 8 hours a day. That's all they do is see death after death after death. So I really try to work on just engagement in the office because our turnover rate used to be 80%. I got it back down to about 8. Now, it's not perfect. Some people still, after a couple of years, they're like, this is all the death I want to take. Now, like I say, I know I am running out of time, so I am going to speed up. Is it 1 or 1:15 this place is? 1, okay. 1, I'm going to skip, I'm going to go to the end, just because I want to tell you about the future real quick. You're missing the cold cases. We solved some cool cold cases. No, shush.
May have to come back for the cold cases.
Well, I'll come back. I'll play it. I'll stay as long as you want. So, but I know Rotary, and I know 1 o'clock you're done. So let's talk about our future real quick. So some of the reasons. So cool. So Andy, I've got a rapid DNA machine in my office where I can actually test DNA and get an analysis within a couple of hours. Author, I've just applied for a grant from Congressman Birchman for $120,000 that will do forensic genetic genealogical testing on the 16 unidentified remains that I have in my office, and I can close half of those. Some of those go back to the 80s. We've closed cases from 74 to last year since I've been there. And I'm getting a new building. Because of Detroit, I am getting a new facility. We're overworked, and I don't have enough room. So I went and met with Governor Lee last November. So they said, Chris, you're going to make a presentation to the governor. I said, oh crap! Went and bought me a new suit because I don't wear a lot of ties. And I went and met with the governor, and I was like, I need money. And after I cried. And we made a good presentation. We talked about the number of cases that have went up and how I'm a regional facility. So the governor's giving me $20 million. Governor Jacobs, who didn't show up today, is giving me $10 million. It'll be $12 million since he's put me on this. So I'm getting a new facility. It's going to be a $30 million, 30,000 square foot facility, and I will promise I will appropriately spend every dollar of your all's money. So I will take any questions. I'm getting run off the stage, and I will stay around to show anything that y'all want to. Sir.
Real quick, do you see a future for artificial intelligence in being part of your staff? Just curious.
So they have what's called, there are 3D autopsy machines now. So of course you have X-ray and CT scans, but they actually have machines that you can purchase that will almost do a complete, and he asked about if there's technology or AI for that, for autopsy. So they will actually fully scan the body and you'll get almost a perfect autopsy view of the inside of a body. Now, we've not got to that far. But I'm sure, like everything else, it will eventually take my job too. Yeah.
Do you deal with the body farm?
So, no, we pick fun at each other a lot. So he asked if I work with a body farm. So, no, they're very snobbish over there. So they actually kind of get mad at us a little bit. So Dr. Bass in the past, they held all these unidentified remains. Well, in 2014, UT kicked us out and we had to get our own facility. And then, so we are the legal entity that's responsible for identifying unidentified remains. They didn't like letting go of their research facility study, so they actually had to give us the unidentified remains. They didn't like that. We're the anthropologists. I'm like, well, we'll get one too. And I got one. And it's one of Dr. Bass's proteges. We actually have our own body farm in Morgan County. So we donate unclaimed individuals that don't have infectious diseases to there, and the National Forensic Academy uses them for digging up, burying, and practicing and learning about how to identify anthropological remains. But so the body farm is the training facility that teaches people how to do what my employees do. So we are the actual real rubber meets the road, somebody said earlier. We're the ones who do the work, and most of my employees went through that training program. So they have a lot of good memories there. They learned how to do it there, and now they do it for a living here. If you find a hand sticking out of the ground, you're not going to call University of Tennessee Body Farm, you're going to call us. And we're going to come out there and remove and disinter the individual.
One quick one. The guy who got shot through the neck that you referenced, they misdiagnosed the cause of death. If he had COVID.
It was before COVID. Yeah. So I can tell you because I have 2,769 death certificates that list COVID on there because my boss was very adamant about us keeping track of those on there. And I can tell you there is nothing but a natural death that shows on there is COVID on the death certificate. Now, some of those, I can show you exactly how many people had metastatic cancers or other diseases or just had COVID alone on there. But we have no accidental deaths that have COVID on there as well, except one. I'm not telling about that one. Well, he wrecked his car, but because he was coughing. So it's still an accidental death, motor vehicle death, but COVID's like part 3. Anything else? I'm sorry if I went too long. I'll stay around. If you got questions, I'll hand it as long as you want.
You don't get off that.
I don't get away too far.
Where's your new building gonna be?
Well, that's up to part 2. So we were trying to get in UT Research Park beside us, but once again, UT, after courting us for 6 months, they're like, you know what, we're not a good fit anymore. So as of right now, there's a good possibility we might be heading out west. But I'm not going to say where because it's in a residential area and I want somebody to talk to that county commissioner first.
All right, I need you to sign this book. The book is called Bellin Woodard More Than Peach. We give this to Pond Gap.
Absolutely.
So if you'll sign that.
Be more than glad to.
And in case you need 2 momentums on your desk.
So if you ever watch any of my interviews, this is actually directly behind my head. So if you go back and watch my interviews, you'll see this behind me in my office. So I'll have 2. I'll have one on each side.
So if you have to throw it at somebody?
Well, if the reporter goodness quotes me.
Just for your information, I wouldn't make it a day.
No.
That's why I'm the county. And also now know I won't be here August 8th in case the mayor gets confused that I was kidding.
I was going to stir that up.
Leave it to you, Joe.
He can send Chris back.
Yeah.
He can come back.
I can actually get to my presentation.
August 4th, sorry, not August 8th.
And Danny, it's good to have you. Do we have any other announcements? Next meeting, in case you didn't know it, it's going to be a bloody coup, as I understand it. Bloody.
Bloodless.
No, bloody.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
What's that? I could have went there?
Maybe you should come back next week. First hand.
And then,
That's not real.
four-way test. David, can you do the four-way test?
Four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
Second,
Is fair and all concerned?